Hey everybody, and welcome to our review of Skate Summer. My name is Z Garcia.
I'm Camilla Cleghorn.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
We're going to be taking a look at this rad game in which you are going to be trying to stay on your skateboard. You are going to be moving around this sort of city/skate park, pulling off tricks, collecting tokens, trying to get a few majorities in various things. Before we dig too deep into it, let's go ahead and take a look at an overview so you understand what's going on in the game. Not a full explanation, just some ideas of what's happening. We'll come on back after that, tell you some thoughts.
All right, the first thing we need to do for setup here is get the main board set. You're going to locate the individual tokens here and set them aside in the supply for this side of the board. And then for the main board, you want to locate the tokens that have 4 icons on each and 2 icons on each, and add one of each token to the main board out here, like this. Once you've done this for all the hexes, it'll look something like this. Then we need to take our end game here and end game token and put it on the 70 to indicate when the game ends. Take our special tricks and our tricks cards, shuffle them up and put them in the general supply, as well as our wheel tokens, the dice pool, and our movement tokens. After that, we are ready to set up our player board. First thing to set up the player board is we're going to slot in our character, as you can see here, Noah Comply, and this over here, which is the price structure for upgrading our this side of the board here. And you will slot in these cubes to show your current exchange rate. Each player will also take their 6 check and X tokens here and put them above skater, like this, to show they have not visited any of those spots yet. Take their little tokens here and put them on the outside cutouts on their skateboard, and take the 4 upgrade tokens and put them on the board as well, matching up the symbol with symbol. These might be upgraded during the game, but for now they just sit on the board. And one additional one for our special tricks. Finally, each player begins with their little token for their character, a 1 movement. Their individual scoring will go on 0, and their meeple goes in the very center of the board in the big air. Determine a first player, and you're ready to go. All right, so the goal of the game is to get the most points by visiting different locations on the board, collecting the different skater locations, as well as different icons out here, which is going to be kind of a set collection majority scoring at the end of the game. The game is going to be played over a series of rounds, which have 2 distinct halves, one on your own player board and then one on the main board here. And the end game is triggered when one person crosses this score token here. Then you finish that round, score up your points, highest score wins. Each round is going to be played over 4 phases. The first one is the combo phase. Each player is going to have a handful of tricks here. Whoops, that was in the wrong pile. A handful of tricks here in which they will select one to play to their main board. The first card will go in the middle, and you can choose one of the benefits at the bottom of the card. It looks like I forgot a token. Let me find that. And we're back. We cannot not have our balance token here, which will also go in the middle of your player board. So when you play a card into the middle of your board, you will choose one of the benefits at the bottom of the board. At the bottom of the corners here, of the card that you just played. If it's an arrow like this, you will move your balance the indicated direction and number of arrows. For example, this one's 2 here. Your balance would move towards the back of your board 2. Here, this one would move it up once. This one's on fire, as you can see here, so you would also get a wheel token if you chose this side of the card. If there are any other icons on the cards, for example, this one here, the salad, you would earn that as well. This would get you 2 of the bell icons, and you would just add them to your personal supply down here, as well as don't forget to move your balance. Once every player has done that, then you are going to add 1 die to the balance pool, as well as the balance die here, and you're going to roll those. So for the first round, you'd have the balance die and 1 additional of the pink dice here. You would roll those dice and move your balance. All players would move the balance as indicated. So for example, here, we're going to move our balance towards the back of the board 1 spot, like this. That's pretty lucky because now this player is balanced. Once everyone has resolved the dice, then each player needs to decide if they are going to land or skate. If they land, then they are pulling out of the round, and they can go ahead and place their marker here on one of the benefits of the main board here, locking in the player order and the benefit for this next phase that we'll go into. However, the other option is you can continue to skate, in which, once again, you would look at your hand and play another card to the left or the right of the one that you've already played. Again, moving balance. This time, though, if you play on the left, you have to take the left-hand benefit, and if you play on the right, you have to take the right-hand benefit. So again, you are balancing on one side or the other. And again, after every player has done that, they would move their balance as indicated, add another dice to the pool, and roll again. Here, we move the balance towards the front, 1. This is a pretty lucky round for this skater. Once every player has decided to land, or they have busted, meaning their balance has gone all the way into the indicated zone over here and they have crash landed, then we move on to the next phase. If you successfully landed all of your tricks, meaning you never busted and never ended in one of these two zones here, the death zones, then you would get 1 free upgrade over here. Every card you played is then scored. So for example, let's say that this player played and was able to get all of these out there, something like this. Then they get a free upgrade and they decide to upgrade their yellow. The first thing we're going to do is then score these cards. So they would pick up these hands, and they are the cards for this next phase. They have 3 yellow, which are valued at 2 each, and 1 red, which is 1. So this would be 2, 4, 6, 7 points for purple. As we then switch to this main board here, players will, one at a time, starting with the first player, use these cards to navigate through the city here. The yellow can be used for the yellow, the red for the red, and the blue for the blue, of course. So as you plot your way out here, you can also, anytime you land in a spot with these, spend the wheel tokens in order to grab those. So again, if this player had played these cards, they could use 1 yellow to go here, 1 yellow to go here, and then if they had 2 flame tokens, because there are 2 tokens here, they could spend those tokens to pick up and claim this token, which again goes into endgame scoring set collection, as well as gives some sort of benefit on the back. This player only has 1 wheel token, however, so they'll keep moving, for example, here, and then perhaps into here again. Anytime a player enters one of these purple hexes here, which spell out skater on the outside of the board, they will get to then take the benefit as listed here for that letter on the top of their board. So if they entered here, they would flip over the K at the top of their board to show that they visited there and got the benefit. Now, that one specifically increases their hand size from 5 to 7, and then they can take this off to show that now they can have 3 special tricks instead of just 2 as the game goes. They would remove both of those tokens. Again, each one is going to have a different benefit that helps upgrade their board or gives some sort of one-time benefit. For example, E here, they get to upgrade one of their scoring multipliers here for free. If you ever enter one of these with the arrows here, this is a revert ramp, so if you enter here and you have a special tricks equipped on the bottom of your board, you can discard that card in order to immediately go back into the center of the board to help you navigate the board a little more quickly. If you're ever in the big air here, you can roll the big air die and immediately move that many spaces in one direction for free. 1, 2, 3. You pick one direction and you have to go in a straight line. You do have to use all the movement, and you cannot stop or collect anything along the way. You cannot interrupt that movement either. Once all players have completed their movement, they will discard their hand, draw back up to their hand size, remove the dice, and prepare for the next round. If at the end of the round any player has crossed the score marker here, that does trigger end game for scoring, and again, highest player wins. Any player that has visited all of the skater icons, so all of these letters are green checked off and their board is completely upgraded, will receive an additional 10 points. Some of these tokens have additional points on them as well, which have been scored. And then you go into the set collection. For the bells, whoever has the most is 8, second is 4, 8 and 4 for the spray cans, as well as for the crates here. All right, so again, this was just a very brief overview of how to play Skate Summer. Let's go back up top and get our thoughts.
All right, so that is Skate Summer. So let's start with the theme and the look of the game, guys, before we jump into mechanically what's going on in this one. I think it's got a great look thematically. You know, the cool kids spray painted kind of vibe going on. I really like that. That gets a big thumbs up for me. On the flip side of that, I do find this board a little bit busy.
It's a little busy, for sure. Yeah, I kept expecting, because it's a hexagon type based board. For some reason, I had it in my head. Maybe it's the gamer brain. I thought there were going to be tiles that were being placed over it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't.
Right.
That threw me off. That being said, once I got over kind of the initial, whoa, there's a lot going on, I didn't find it too hard to navigate around the board and find what I needed to find. So, yeah, visually, it's a lot, but I wasn't too thrown off by how everything worked.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the same thing. As far as the theme, I think this is a really unique theme, which I think they sell it really, really well. Again,
that's a big part of it, right? It's not just the theme; it's that it's in here.
Yeah, like you feel like you went to a skate park, or you're noticing things, the skating call-outs, you know, around your town, that kind of stuff. I really, really think the artwork matches, and it's done really, really well. Same thing though with the board, and you looked at it, I was like, this is going to be hard to read. But now thinking back on it, I was like, I was never confused by it. And I don't know why, because I still look at it now and I'm like, I shouldn't understand this, but it did work when we were playing. There was never like a, wait, what can I go? Where's that symbol at again? So I expected to have a problem, and even now looking at it, I don't know why I didn't have a problem playing, but I never was confused on what color was where and where you can go and that kind of stuff. So it does work. I think personally, just for that visual, I wish that the background was a little more faded. What do you call that? Yeah.
I think I would have gone with I would have left the background alone and just made these lines a little stronger. Maybe.
That too.
Really?
I think the grid overlay is a little weak. You know, they're very faded. So yes, you can definitely play. It is not it does not get in the way of playing the game. I just. They prioritized artwork here, and hey, to be honest, I would too if I could do this. You know, I get that, but I would have liked the lines to be a little bit stronger. But having said that, thematically, it definitely comes through.
And you know, maybe it's because when these tokens are out there, which are out there during the game, maybe it's because that does cover up, and that is a pretty big difference. So maybe that's why it works so visually. I don't know, but. Yeah, it's still playable.
It does.
Absolutely.
And thematically, since we're talking about theme a little bit, this is one that coming into it, I had no expectations for the game outside of, I know what this theme is, are they going to be able to pull it off? Because otherwise I didn't know anything mechanically about the game before we learned it for the first time. And I was pleasantly surprised by how well the theme does come through. There's no board game that's going to really replicate the feeling of being on a skateboard, right?
Well, of course, yeah.
But what I think this is doing, and I don't think it's trying to hide this at all, is that it's leaning into a connection to those kind of old school skateboarding video games like Tony Hawk, right? And that I think it does very, very well. Much better than I even anticipated it could have. So thematically, I really enjoyed how it kind of integrated it.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and go through the game then. We'll go through it mechanically. Let's begin, though, with setting up. Setup was actually a bit of one of the weak parts for me. I thought setup had a lot of bits and bobs and stuff you stick and slot and sort of organize in front of you. So that one's going to be a little slow to get going at the beginning. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but it was sort of a bit fiddly. Not in-game play. In setup, there's a lot of stuff. Then you've got the first big part of every round is that balancing part where you are playing cards to try to stay on your board and hoping you don't get knocked out by that increasing die roll. I think mechanically that is great. I really liked that. That pushing your luck, that selecting which card you play on what side, what it gives you in the little corners based on what side you put it on, collecting stuff to be spent later in the round, right? You get flames, and you get these, and you get this stuff, and it's a cascading effect. Those cards you will then pick up and use to move. And you will score the symbols based on how specific you are being with your different three tricks or tracks or whatever. That's great. It's a nicely layered, mechanically layered game, and that first phase I really did enjoy. It's very cool.
Yeah, I agree with you about the setup. The only kind of pushback to that, and it's not really a pushback, is it's almost more a question. I agree that there's a fair amount of setup for a game of this length, but a lot of the things that you're setting up are things that make the game, I think, more usable for you as a player. Like those tokens you're placing on your board. I love that mechanically, this idea of, okay, I remove this token and now I know what it gives me right away. I don't have to look at a player aid. Now my hand size is larger. Now my, way to kind of trigger these special tricks is, they have a usability purpose,
right?
But there is a payoff, or there is a downside to that, which is setting it up. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
And then just briefly talking about that first phase of the game, that's another one where I, again, loved the mechanical element of how you play it, but I also liked that it made thematic, well, I don't know about thematic sense, but it makes, I don't know, physical sense that you're literally placing cards more to one side or the other of your board. And so that's an easy way to remember kind of this idea of your balancing, and it also builds into that thematic integration. So I liked that a lot.
Yeah, I really liked the thematic integration of that pushing your luck, and as you put that card down, you still get benefits from that card.
Right.
Even if you land the trick or not. And I think that's cool because you get that street cred. Like, oh, you tried that trick, and I'm not even gonna come up. Ollie is about the only trick I know off the top of my head. But so you still get that points, and I really like it's not quite multi-use, but you're building up for the second phase, right? So you might want to play it for the trick and the benefit that it brings. And okay, do I want the right side or the left side versus my balance? And so some really interesting decision on the placement. But then also getting into the second phase here, what color do I have to where am I going to move through the city? And so you're thinking in like multi-layers as you're placing this. It's not just about which side of the card, it's which side of the board do I have the space in order to play it on, and what do I want to do with that card? How is that card going to serve me in this second round? And so I really like that, mechanically, I really like that multi-layer thinking that you have to do. It's like multi-purpose card, and I really, really like that. I did find, like you said, the board's a little bit fiddly, and there was a couple times I kind of knocked it, but everything also has its place. It's not like, oh no, where was my score track? Because really the only thing that matters is the on your player board, this over here, and that is punched out, so it's not going to move. It's more this stuff. It's like, oops, I moved that. Oh, put it back on. So it's definitely has that fiddly, but it doesn't take away, I don't think, because it's easily fixed if something does go.
Really,
I guess it comes down to like which kind of gamer you are. You're the kind of gamer that wants to like fill in everything, and as you play, remove it. Or you just throw the board down, start playing, and as you gain powers, add them on.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? This one's very much the former there. You need to set it all up, and then, yes, when you gain a power or unlock something, you can just remove a tile, and it's already there.
Right.
And that's nice.
The flip side of that is you're not possibly going to get them all. You might have set some of those up for no reason.
That's true.
Right? So you just have to figure that one out. Again, it's not going to slow the game down to the point of you not wanting to play it. It's just you need to be aware that that's how they're choosing to tackle that.
Yeah.
You
brought up an interesting point really quick I wanted to come back to, and that I didn't realize until you mentioned it how much I liked it, is this idea that at that beginning, when you're balancing, it is a push your luck element, but it's not an all or nothing. It's not so punishing. If you face plant, and that, I kind of like that thematically, right? You're still going to get a little bit of cred from, oh man, you got to go big or go home.
You didn't get laughed out at a skate park,
You don't lose everything. Like if you don't land that trick, you're still getting something out of it.
Right.
Not as much as if you landed it and pushed your luck, but you're still getting something out of it, and I like that.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to mention, I guess mechanically, is that it's tough to pull off games that have two distinct phases, I think, or two or more. I always end up liking one phase and not liking another phase or something like that. That's not the case with this. Now, I do prefer the first part. That's the part that's most exciting. But this is not like an afterthought. This is not like, I still enjoyed that portion of the game too. And I think that's a nice thing when you have a multi-phase game and you're interested in both phases. So that's a big plus for me.
Yeah, I agree. The flames are another thing. You'll be collecting those flames, and they also are multi-purpose. You'll be spending them to move up on the tracks that you score your cards with. So, you'll have your ramps times whatever the value is of the ramps. You'll score that. And then you can use those flames to pay for these tokens as you visit around the area here and pay those flames take that token, get a bonus on the back,
Yep.
keep the token for scoring these. It seems like everything in this game has at least 2 purposes,
Yeah.
including
Yes.
these tokens.
Yep.
And I like that very much about it. Now, it does mean that there's sort of some weaving you need to do as
Sure.
you're figuring out the game. But I enjoy that idea. You know, I like the... I mean, even something thematically multi-leveled, like spelling out skater.
Right.
It doesn't, the letter doesn't do anything. It's just a power it's associated with. But there is a letter on it, and if you do flip them all over, then you can spell the word skater and trigger the end of the game.
Yep.
So it's just those little things compound to make this a game that, as you play, I found that feeling of it continues to get bigger.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, you have the ramping back and then big air,
Yeah.
and everything just slowly built on itself.
Yep.
Until a little thing you decide in the very first card play, you know will matter for the absolute final thing you do this turn.
Yes.
And that's neat. I really enjoyed that. What did you guys think of all the special abilities and special effects and sort of distinctions between players as you continue to play? Did you find that to be interesting?
You know, I guess I hadn't considered that as being a huge element of the game. I didn't feel... I guess I felt like we were all kind of doing the same thing. You know, there were times where I was like, yeah, I guess I wish I'd had that bonus first because I can see how that's benefiting, you know, the other people at the table, and maybe I should have done that first. But I was also able to do things they weren't able to do, so I don't know.
Yeah, but there is that little bit of asymmetry. Not because you have something different.
Right.
But because of the order in which you do
Right.
things, you'll have a special ability for longer.
Right.
Or you might not get it at all.
Right,
I mean,
right.
that could happen. So, like, you know, last game we played there, I had the this. A up here means when I score my cards during that interim step, you know, after playing cards, but before we move, I double my score.
Yeah.
That meant I was really focusing a lot on the symbols I was scoring.
Right.
And the moving, I was thinking, well, I'll take what I can get. You know, I'll move around. However, I'll use the wild tokens to puzzle it together.
Right.
So I like that. I like that it lets me specialize a little bit. It lets me
Right.
focus on something
Yeah.
a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
And I want to say, I mean, I think I had an opposite reaction from you when I forget which one you went to first. Where
I think
the
I
hand card.
got hand size.
You got the hand size.
I wanted that right away.
And I think I was on this side of the board, so I saw that one. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll start. You know, just start
Yeah.
pulling levers. I'll head this way. So I started heading this way. And when you got there, it was like, I was really jealous. I was like, what? You get 7 cards? Like, I had a very strong reaction to
Yeah.
it. I was like, that's so cool. And I think that moment kind of hit me that you really do kind of get to build your character.
Yeah.
Yes, I had that same opportunity. So it's not that luck of I drew into this special
right.
card. It's out there. If you want that and that speaks to your play style, go get it and
That's a
go
good
become
point.
that kind
Yeah.
of player. And I really liked that it's open information. It's nothing looked into. You can kind of build up your own whatever kind of character you want. And we all have those same options.
Right.
And I really, really liked that.
Yeah.
So that's why I then started making. I never made it there. But I started making my way over there. You know, I'm just a really bad skateboarder.
No,
but,
you got
know.
distracted by the ramps on
I
the
did
way.
get distracted
that's
by the
what
ramp.
it
You know,
is.
I mean,
It's hard to pass up a ramp.
It
you know
is.
what I mean?
In real life, yes. So it's very thematically accurate.
All right, so let's talk about maybe, you know, things that didn't work for us or things we felt were underutilized. And I guess I'll kick this off with the special tricks.
Yeah.
The special trick deck.
Right.
I thought was a really neat idea. It works well. It's fine. You can bank it, and then again, multi-use cards. You can play it for the ability on the card. You can chuck it to return. Use the return ramp, right? And they always everything in this game seems to do multiple things.
Right.
I just thought the deck was a little underutilized.
I agree.
And yes, you can move in your markers, really, you know, hone in on that and get more of them. It still feels underutilized a little bit.
I feel like it took 3/4 of the game to get one,
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, now what do these do again? What do we do? And so, I mean, I never got more than one. I think somebody got,
I got
two.
two, I think.
Okay.
You had a bunch.
Yeah,
though.
like 2 or 3,
really?
maybe.
Okay,
but
so-
again, it is a whole deck of cards,
Yes,
Right.
yes.
of which you might see, I'll be generous and say 4 cards.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can only ever have 3 at one time anyway.
Right, and you
So-
want to spend those.
Right.
Obviously, you should
Yeah.
spend them, you know. It just... I wonder if some people are going to feel that you're gonna have that feeling of, oh, these are so hard to get, I'm not gonna spend it.
Yeah.
Which is
definitely
not
felt
really
that.
is not really what you want
Right.
in special things. But it also just, there's not enough of a flow of them. I don't know
Yeah.
if maybe each player having some to begin with,
Maybe,
or
yeah.
maybe if the characters themselves had a small deck of 5 special cards
That
that
were
were
tailored.
their
Yeah.
special
something like
5.
that,
That could
Yeah.
be cool.
That would
Expansion.
make you feel a little more special. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
can see that.
Yeah, I found that to be a little underwhelming.
Or definitely, yeah. I think just being able to have access to them quicker would have helped me feel more connected to that mechanism. I think,
Right.
because one of those things, like I said, it was 3/4 the way through the game before we even saw one of those cards,
Yeah.
and I just would have. And then I had that thing. I got one. Okay, well, you have 2. I got to hold on to this then because I don't know what if it is it time to use it. And almost like brought a little bit of angst because it was so hard for me to get that one,
Yeah.
and I really had to push my luck in order to get it. But again, is that mitigated by, like you said, kind of me bringing those things in a little bit, and that wasn't my play style that game. So I don't know that I can speak long term for that, but I do think it took too long to get them out to where I then did not want to use it. I
Right.
worked too hard for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. The special tricks deck was maybe a little underwhelming, and the only other aspect of the game that I felt was not exciting, compared to the rest of the game, is the set collection.
That's what I was going to say. Yep.
Because that really did feel kind of like, hey, we need another way for you to get some points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's an easy way to do it? Set collect school bells, aerosol cans, maybe for graffiti,
Yeah.
and crates.
Yeah.
Thematically, kind of odd choices to
They're
me.
weird. They're a little
I was
bit
gonna
weird,
say,
yeah.
I mean, the school bell, is that like a shout out to a game?
It very
is that
well could
something
be.
I don't understand?
I've played various iterations
okay.
of Tony Hawk and
All right.
Skate and other video games, and they may be. But
Yes.
even so, I mean, even if you had great thematic, elements, which I don't know what they'd be, maybe whatever.
Yeah.
Just
spray
this is
can.
very
Got
much
that.
a hey, first majority gets 8 points, second majority
Yeah.
gets 4.
Yeah.
It's pretty bog standard.
It's just mechanical.
Yeah, and it doesn't really serve any purpose other than another way to get points.
And I think I found it sometimes a little distracting because it is just that majority, and you're not really counting what other people are doing. I mean, yes, it's out there, I guess,
Right.
but we ended up just stacking them, so you don't know exactly.
Sure.
And so it's
And it would slow the game
would.
down if I was like, wait, how many crates do you
right,
have?
exactly.
Well,
Right,
yeah, you don't
and it's
wanna
just
do that.
majority, and so I found it almost distracting, because it's taking you away from the skater, letters, getting those in order to go out there and get those
Mm-hmm.
extra. But then you might end up being like, oh, well, I had like 15 more than somebody, so I wasted a lot of time there. So again, I don't think it was a bad mechanism. I
Yeah,
think
no.
they needed a little something more to entice you and to do in the town.
Sure.
It was just, we were talking about the weaker parts of the
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
That's the one that was like, all right, fine, I'll do this as I go, and
Yeah.
I was happy to do it. It was just definitely that was my personal least favorite part
Yeah.
of the game. It's not
Yeah, it
as
feels
bad.
like a very workman-like part of the
Sure,
game,
yeah.
right? It's like, hey, also, you need to just score things.
Sure,
Yeah.
Because it's a board game and we need a winner.
right.
All the other cool stuff is great. Also, collect stuff and score points.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. Anything else, guys, you want to mention before we jump into some final thoughts here?
No, I think
good?
I think we got our big points out there.
All right. Well, Mike, why don't you go ahead and lead us off with some wrap-up thoughts?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier on, this is a game that you like to say you go into every game with no expectations. Sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. This is really one that, again, other than the theme, which I was a little bit like, let's see how they pull this off. I had zero expectations. I was blown away. I was really, really surprised and just impressed with how well they pulled off a skateboarding game, because I don't know that that's an easy thing to pull off in a board game. I think they did a terrific, terrific job. I'm giving this a 9. This is excellent. This is something I think I wanted to play it again as soon as we were done playing it. I feel that way right now. I'd play it right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like the length of the game is perfect. I feel like the rules to experience ratio is dead on. I feel like I could have no problem teaching this to gamers for the most part. It's
Yeah,
not an
yeah.
entry-level game by any means. There's a lot of rules for someone that's not familiar with modern games. But it's a nice medium weight game that hits that perfect about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on player count, niche. I really like this a lot.
Yeah.
Really do.
All right.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Very similar thoughts, actually. I did go into this very apprehensive. When I get excited about a game, it almost gives me that like pull back and like, oh no, don't get excited, you know. And so I definitely felt that. You know, my son being a skater, and so this theme was just definitely like, I want this to be so many things, and I really think it delivered on all those things. I very, very much enjoyed this from the mechanism standpoint. I love what it's doing. It's crunchy enough and has a lot of that decision space with the multi-use and multi-purpose cards and actions and everything. There's so much that you can do, and kind of gives that puzzle, but at the same time isn't an overwhelming puzzle. And I think the dice, bringing the dice into it with that push your luck, also keeps it light and fun at the same time, but not punishing because, oh, I went too far, I'm now in last place. You don't ever have that feeling. You have like, oh, bummer.
I got to discard a card.
Right, exactly. Shake it off, get up and try again. And it gives you that feeling, which is what you want. And I think we see this oftentimes in games that try to bring sports over where they don't capture the feeling of that sport. You know, like, I mean, football and soccer and that kind of stuff. And I think that they really did that here with this. Encapsulated that feeling of skating and like trying something new, getting up, pushing it a little bit. Oh, no, you didn't get it. But hey, you still got experience. You still get something out of it, and you can still work your way through it. So mechanically, I think it's solid. What sells me on this game is that I can't tell if the theme or the mechanisms came first. And I think for me, that really shows that both are so strong, and it was a great design to bring those two things together. So I'm coming in at a 9 as well. This is one that I will be adding to my collection. I really, really enjoy this game.
Well, I'm coming in just a hair below you guys at an 8.5. I really like it as well. When I first read this we were sort of prepping to play it, and I grabbed it, read through this, and sometimes you just get that feeling. You read the rule book, and I thought to myself, there's something in here. This reads well, you know. There's a good game in here, I'm pretty sure. This looks busy. There's maybe half a mechanism too many. Did we need the return ramps and big air and the special deck and the die for jumping? And, you know, like, just so it might be it maybe could have used like just the smallest bit of streamlining and save it for an expansion. But it's very fun. It is very well put together. Engaging, like you said, the kind of game that reels you in. You know, you're like, just, oh, here, play these cards and try to stay on your board. And as soon as you play a card, you figure it out, that dice flop comes out, and you go, oh, and you add a die every time? Okay, let's see what I can do. I'm going to scoot over this way. And say, okay, I got to really jump over to this side. That's just, it gets you, you know? And then those cards are used for multiple things after that. So, very solid offering here. Great theme, great look, great game. 8.5 from me, but 2 solid 9s here. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Skate Summer. And that's going to do it for us. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Z Garcia.
I'm Camilla Cleghorn.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
And we'll catch you on the next one. Be careful out there.